there, Catfish Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Flathead Outfitters. Again, it seems like it has been a while since we've been able to put a video together and send out there to you, but you probably understand the reason for that. If you're in Georgia, you know that 2023 is starting out to be somewhat of a repeat of 2022. Every week, man, we're getting just hammered with the rain. And in central Georgia here this week, man, we've been inundated with just bad weather, tornadoes, large winds, and again, the rain, and all the rain coming from North Georgia down to South Georgia, from the lakes, emptying out into the rivers. It's just totally messed up fishing. So we've had just a few opportunities to hit the river for just a few hours. Today's episode is just a very short clip because this past week we really actually had just a few hours to fish. We were watching the river levels, and then up north of us at the lakes, we were watching the dam levels to see how much water they were fixing to let loose out of the dam. And literally where we are in Georgia, where we are in Dublin on the Oconee, once they start letting a lot of water loose at the lake, from where we're at downriver from them, about 32 hours or less, the front of that water starts hitting us. So literally, in the process of making this video, the river had dropped down about 2 foot while I was fishing. And then within 24 hours later, it's going back up about 4 foot. And by this weekend, it's going to be nasty. They're estimating the river levels to be in the flood stage in excess of 25 foot here in Lawrence County. So it's going to be messed up until after Easter. We've got at least 2 weeks of more rain, more flooding. The river's nasty. It is muddy. So fishing is going to be terrible. Our hopes is this, that with all this fresh water, the rivers are going to be awesome for fishing as we get toward latter spring and into early summer. The fish are going to be starving. So if we are able to get into the river, and if we've got all of our hook set properly, and like everybody, if we have good live bait, put them in the right places, maybe we'll catch some monster catfish for the rest of this season. So today's show is going to be short and sweet. So let me tell you what I had to do because of having to fish around the rain. And I'm not opposed to fishing in the rain, but I'm not going to fish when there's tornadoes in the area and when there's lightning in the area. I just don't do that. If it's just raining, I don't have a problem with it. But because we have had severe weather in our area this week, I've had to kind of fish just in short increments and short time. So I did something a little different this week. I went to the river, had to go by myself, went pretty much in the middle of the day and set some bush hooks, which is something I never do. If you watch my videos, you know that probably 99.9% of the time I'm fishing at night, all night long, setting bush hooks, limb lines. And that's just primarily when the fish, the catfish, especially the big cats, start biting shortly after dark. Very seldom do you catch big cats in the rivers in Georgia. Now you can catch 1 or 2 here and there, but primarily bush hooking, it just doesn't happen. So I went this week, set a few bush hooks, and there was a time period between about 11:30 in the morning and somewhere around 1:30 in the afternoon. I was able to get on about, I think, 5 or 6 decent fish, no monsters, unfortunately. But we were able to catch flatheads in the middle of the day, which is really unheard of. So what that means to me is they're hungry and they're ready to eat. So just as soon as the river levels get right and the temperature of the water warms up a little bit more, I think it's going to be an awesome season for everybody. If you're a novice fisherman, if this is going to be your first season trying to get on some monster fish, I think you stand a wonderful opportunity of getting that fish of a lifetime. And for people like me and my business, we're a commercial fishing business. I hope we're going to be able to meet that supply and demand this year by catching some real nice fish. And as far as our guide service, putting people on monster fish. I think 2 things are going to happen this year. We're going to see some more monster flatheads being caught in the rivers of Georgia. And I believe we're going to see some record blue catfish being caught out of our local rivers. So As the old saying goes, you can't catch them at the house, so you got to get in the river. So several people have kind of texted and messaged me and kind of want to know how my setup looks like, how do I fish, and ideas and suggestions are a dime a dozen. Everybody has a different way, which is awesome. You fish a different way depending on what you were taught and what you've learned in the rivers that you fish. Same way with me. Fishing has changed drastically through the years. When I was a little kid fishing with my granddad, we used the same hook, the same line, the same piece of cardboard or styrofoam or a piece of wood to wrap the line around. And that's all my granddad had for 20 or 30 years. So hooks have changed, line sets, leaders have changed, swivels have changed. All of this has evolved to help you and I to become better fishermen or have a better chance at hanging good fish. So people have asked me kind of what do my sets look like? Listen, you can go from just the basic, benign, generic set of just a regular hook and just regular fishing line, put you some lead weight, and you stand a chance of catching some fish. But you've got to ask yourself, what are you after? If you're after the monsters, and primarily that's what we do, we're looking for big fish, then you've got to have the right equipment. I think every person going after catfish will tell you this. It doesn't matter what kind of boat you have, what kind of rod and reel you have. Doesn't matter your hook sets primarily. What it really boils down to is your bait. Do you have enough bait? Are they the right size bait? And are they alive consistently when you put them on the hook? Most people I run into at the rivers when they're going fishing, they've got a handful of brim that they've caught out their pond or the creek. And by the time they get to the river, half of them are already dead. And can I tell you, there's a big difference in putting a dead brim on a hook versus a lively brim. And it all depends also on what type of bait you're using, what type of brim. And is it a pond brim? Are you catching nice brim out the creek? Makes a big difference. But there again, when you go, bait is everything, and lively bait is everything, because most of your big fish, they go off that vibration of those fish underwater. I'm convinced of it. Now, you can use cut bait and you can catch some flatheads. You can use cut bait and you can catch some blues and channels. But if you're after the monster fish, they need a big target, and they need that target to be constantly moving so that those sound waves, that kinetic energy is moving through the water for them to sense and then come and eat. So let me kind of tell you just a couple basic hooks that I use. And it depends on whether I'm doing just straight up bush hooks, whether I'm trying to tie off into some logs, whether I'm setting a few trout lines, just all depends. So as far as my hooks for my trout lines and smaller limb lines, I still use, and I prefer the old Gamakatsu circle hook. Probably can't tell it real good on here, but this is just an 8/0. But also the hook, along with my leaders that I make, and I use a triple swivel set. Probably can't see it real good here, but my triple swivel set enables my lines underwater to consistently move the way they're supposed to without getting tangled up either by the fish swimming up and tailing itself. A lot of times if you use just braided line or even tarred line, if you've got a lively fish, it can tangle itself up around your own line. Or if it's even close to a limb underwater, it can get tangled up in a hurry. My hook sets kind of tend to ease that situation and make it a little better. It makes it a little stiffer. That way that fish can't go as far. Because primarily when you're setting those bush hooks, those line sets, when you drop that line straight down, that's where you want it to stay. When I drop a line straight down, most of the time, I'm dropping it in between logs, in between a limb. I don't want my bait fish to go pretty much any farther than where I'm setting it. I want it to be straight up and down. One way to assist that is to make sure you've got enough heavy weight. A lot of times I see a lot of fishermen, they're using whatever weights they have laying around the house, whether it's some nuts and some bolts and some flat washers, but you need a good weight to keep your line straight up and down in the water, and primarily straight up and down, just slightly off the bottom. So that Gamakatsu circle hook is one. Many of you probably use this, and it's still an effective hook. The old J hook. Now this is a 10/0. I normally use anywhere from a 9 to a 10/0. They're good hooks. One of the problem is that depending on your bait, this is such a big anchored hook, the shaft, that you're punching such a big hole through your bait that I think the bait has a higher tendency to be able to wiggle itself off, or a gar or dogfish come through and yank it off. So primarily, this is an okay hook, and I use a lot of them, but that's not my go-to hook. So my favorite of all the hooks is still going back to a circle hook, a triple threat. Now, this is a big one, if you can see it. This is a 12 ounce, do it that way. This is a 12 ounce, and I believe you need every bit of this hook. When you're catching 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 pound fish and bigger, you've got to have a big old hook. Now, we'll tell you this. This is a big hook, and it's a strong hook, and it will hold, or it has held, any fish that I have caught. But one thing I have found out this past week, it won't hold up to a gator. If a gator gets on this, like any hook, if he has a mind to, he'll tear this hook in half. He'll straighten it out. And I had 2 hooks that the gators did that too this week. But as far as a fish, it does a double hook on the lip, which is what you want, so that when you pull that fish up, you don't have to worry about putting them in a net. You know good and well you've got a secure anchor point in both jaws, or a double lip up top or double lip in bottom. So these triple threats, man, I love them. And again, most all my weights, I use 12 a 12 ounce or heavier with a triple swivel system. That way that line can just consistently roll round and round, and that fish won't get tangled up. But there again, is my opinion that you can use whatever you want to. You can have the greatest of equipment, but if your bait stinks, you're still not going to catch fish. So bait is everything, and I think every person fishing for fish will tell you that you've got to have the right bait, and you've got to have lively bait. And even people like me, we're still trying to figure out year from year how to keep enough bait when you need it, how to keep them alive long enough. And you know, when you get to the summertime, it is hard to keep bait alive, especially when you're out in the boat and that sun's beating down, the humidity's high. You have to use a lot of tricks to keep that bait lively. All right, so there again, today's show is going to kind of be short and quick. It's a little different because we're fishing in the daytime. The fish are not real big, but it does show you, if you get out there and you've got the right equipment, and most importantly, if you've got the right bait, you can catch fish, flatheads, in the middle of the day. So I hope you liked today's show. And as always, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hey, if you're coming across some tricks or some things you've learned, shoot it our way. No one person knows everything. And if you're an avid sportsman like me, I'm always willing to learn from other people. But doesn't do any good sitting at the house. So we've got to get in the river. So let's keep on catching those fish. Looks like we might have one on. Fish on, maybe there'll be something to him. Pretty decent fish. And a flathead at that. 11:30 in the afternoon. Just goes to show you, when they're hungry, they'll bite. Pretty decent one. Not bad. Nice dark flathead. Thank you for biting. Yeah, I'll take that all day long. I love those dark colors. I think we got another one on.
fish on. The dogfish, mudfish, what we don't want. Hey. So that's the problem with baiting in the daytime. Otters are gonna find your bait, the gar are gonna find your bait, and these nasty, nasty dogfish. I hate them. They're slimy. We're gonna take this one. All right, so not sure if we got the blue cat on film a minute ago or not, but anyway. There she is. That's a good one. Oh, that'll be good in some grease. It's the weekend, so today I'm fishing for myself and my family. Get some fresh cats to put in some grease. So that one, and this good flathead. Look how dark she is. Isn't that just beautiful? Came out of the rocks. Man, just beautiful. Thank you, Lord. Pretty hard. He's not a monster, but he's hitting it pretty hard. A little small flathead. Well, maybe you can see a little better. That's a little flathead. It's another one. Look at those dark colors. That's pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Nice. That one's gonna be good in the grease tonight too. Let's see if we can bait up. Some real nice bluegill. I've iced them down, cooled them down, so they're real lively. They hit the water and they just go crazy. Thank you, Lord, for the fish. Go catch another one. It is beautiful out here today. Let's see, today's March the 24th. It's supposed to be 85 degrees today. I imagine it's every bit of 80 right now. It is nice. All right, let's check some more. It is almost 12 now. We got another one on. Let's see what we got. Ooh, we woke him up then. Little decent flathead. Nothing monstrous, but he's a good one for almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh yeah, not a bad one. Again, look at those dark colors. Beautiful, beautiful fish. Beautiful. Thank you, Lord. Put him in the cooler with the other guys. Again, that's gonna be supper tonight. Ooh. All right, so overall it was not a bad day. So there again, I was fishing a little bit different today. Normally when we're fishing for these big old catfish, we just fish through the night, all night long. That's primarily when the big ones bite. But it's the weekend. I want to spend some time with my family and have some good family time tonight. We're probably going to cook up some of these fresh fish tonight. So I wanted to make sure I could have the best of both worlds, play on the river and be at home with my family tonight. So I really wasn't expecting to catch much. The river is falling real fast, but I was hoping that, you know, maybe the catfish might be a little hungry. So I set out about 15 hooks with some real good bait, and we didn't get skunked. We caught 4 or 5 pretty decent ones. So overall was not a bad day. Caught this real nice blue cat. Gonna be some good fillets off him. Look at the belly on that joker. And we got a bunch of these little small flatheads. If I can get them. These are perfect eating size. They're also pretty good catching size too. They're not the monster 40 and 50 pounders, but a pretty nice catfish at that. Again, I'm just really digging the dark colors already. They've been down deep. They're starting to come out the rocks, but some more pretty ones. Just love those colors. So there again, white skunk had a real good day. They've kind of quit biting, so I've taken down all my lines, put all my hooks back in the bucket. We're fixing to go home and skin these cats out and put them in some grease and have some real good family time. So as always, thank you for staying tuned. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel, Flathead Outfitters. Be sure to like and share and subscribe. Till next time, let's keep on catching those catfish.